Welcome to the 365 Message Center show. Our three top headlines for this week's episode are that Teams is doodling with the Files tab. Yes, Daniel, I said that. They're going to name it Shared. They're going to make some changes there. It's going to provide me with lots of fun hours of creating content to create awareness of change. So we'll talk more about that. You can tell that's my soapbox today. Secondly, SharePoint is introducing something called Quick Steps to automate common tasks and workflows. Daniel's got question marks, so I'll leave that to him to cover. And finally, PowerPoint. You will be able to stay on brand, getting Copilot to help you with your PowerPoints as it dips into your organizational assets library. Let's get into episode 370. Blink, blink.
Blinky, blinky. So I think that was an interesting way of introducing, one of them is, hey, Daniel's going to talk about this, and it has question marks. I do have questions.
Okay.
And so we'll dive into that here shortly, but we obviously want to thank everyone for being here and watching and listening to the podcast. We have seen an uptick in people coming in and participating in the show, of leaving comments and pinging us and watching and listening. So we greatly appreciate that. Hit us up on all the socials at 365MCS. We'd love to hear from you as well there, and keep those comments coming. Right, Daryl? We'd love
Certainly.
that interaction in the comments on the YouTube video. So that's gives us kind of the fuel to keep going of people providing their own commentary. And while we may have a lot of experience and we have our perspectives, you do too. And you have, your thoughts and opinions. We'd love to hear them, even if you disagree with us. We might tell you, you could be wrong. That's fine. We still want to hear from you. I'm playing.
Oh, that old chestnut, Daniel. Go on.
So we'd love to hear from you. So thank you, everybody.
First up, man, tell us about OneDrive. What's happening here? Whenever I see something that says new naming convention, I think about all the times we've tried to do that internally. Yeah. What's Microsoft asking us to do?
So, okay, I'll read it, the title and all that kind of stuff, and then I'll give you my thoughts. But I think this is positive. Microsoft OneDrive. New naming convention for folder shortcuts, MC1025216. This is something that I've been doing all along, which is renaming OneDrive folder shortcuts. So when you go to add a shortcut to OneDrive, you're in a SharePoint library, for instance, and you say, add this shortcut to OneDrive, then it throws it in there. And the name of the folder is just like, okay, well, that's the site name, or you're in Teams and you can do the same thing, right? And you're like, what is this? Where did this come from? And so I do this every time, and that's a really hard thing to train users. That they expect a function or a feature, I guess I should say. Maybe it is a function. Anyway, they expect this to kind of just work, right? You click and you say, add a shortcut, and it just makes sense that it should go into a special place, that it should be named appropriately so that when I do find it, I know exactly what it is. Well, it's quite the opposite, right? It goes into the wrong place, which is dump them all in the root. And then and then it names it something weird. When you get to it, a couple days later, you're like, what's this from? So it's not intuitive at all. Well, Microsoft is addressing this. They are going to, and there's another scenario we didn't talk about, which is when someone shares a folder with you and you go in, you're kind of like, where did that folder come from? And what is that naming? They're going to make changes. So if you go into a site, SharePoint site, for instance, and it gives this example here in the message, you go into the marketing team and you go into a folder called the project file, I guess it is, and you add that shortcut, it will show up in OneDrive as marketing team dash project files. Okay. And so at least you can understand where it's coming from. What is this folder? If you, go and add a shortcut from, someone else's OneDrive, then it's going to have their name, and the example here is Mona Keynes. It's an interesting name. Mona Keynes files dash folder name. So you get, it's giving you an idea of what that looks like. And the screenshot's good too. Shows you what that'll look like. Now, is this perfect? No, it's not perfect in my mind, because it doesn't act the way that I work, right? The way I do this, Daryl, and I'd love to hear how, you handle this now or will in the future, but the way I handle this is when, like, I'm in Teams and I do a shortcut to a channel's files, I actually have I rename the folder, yes, but then rename that shortcut, but then I move that shortcut into a new folder that I've created called, for me, it's called Teams, in all caps, so I know it came from Teams, and then the team name. That's just the way I do it, the way it works in my mind, so that's the way I do it. So I drag that shortcut into that folder. So, all the channel files that I want to have a shortcut, that's the way I do it. How do you do it, Daryl? And will this renaming at least help with, you think, for people to be able to, figure out what in the world are all these shortcuts?
I also use folders to group together like shortcuts. I use a slightly different naming convention, and I put it in square brackets. So rather than bold, it's just one way. Yeah, I know. It's a bit ASCII of me.
Wow, that's yes.
It's not ASCII-ing me too much, is it? Yeah, but I think it's a good way to use shortcuts to group them together, because if it's related to a project or an initiative or a team or a group of teams, that's how you do it. What I think about the naming convention, I think it's better than nothing to do something that automates it and gives it that identity. I would be concerned about the length of that file name, or rather shortcut name, because some team names get quite lengthy in terms of project number, client, something. We know the naming conventions that are in the variety that we all use there too. So good to see something there. But
I think, Daryl, I think the good thing here is it's not preventing us from renaming it. Right. It's just giving it a better name to at least let us know. The worst thing that I ran into is going into Teams and doing the adding shortcut and not renaming it immediately, but keep going into other teams and saying add shortcut. And then I get to OneDrive and I go, I don't know what these files are. These shortcuts are. So now I got to click into them and go, oh, it's that. And then go back and rename. And so maybe, this would help definitely, I think, in that scenario. So we're still going to be able to rename it, and I don't think this is perfect. The only way that I think this could be better, this whole process, is that when I say create shortcut, it prompts me, where do you want this shortcut to be and what do you want to name it? If it did that, then it would solve all this problem. I think it would also solve on the end user perspective of, okay, I've added a shortcut to OneDrive. Where is it? Okay, you go to it and you're like, what do I do with this shortcut? And it's intermingled with all my folders and it looks weird and blah, blah, yada, yada. If Microsoft actually had great, you want to add a shortcut, done, it's added, but, where do you want to put it? And, so I can put it in my folders wherever I want it. And what do you want to, name it? I think that maybe even what color do you want the folder to be too? Like, I think that would be helpful. Just my 2 cents. General availability worldwide, GCC High, and DoD all together began rolling out mid-March. So, this week, next week-ish, and expect to be completed by mid-April. Speaking of files, Daryl, in Teams, what in the world's Microsoft doing with the Files tab?
Well, I think they're driving at consistency is my short take, but they're also using it as an opportunity to introduce more new stuff. more changes. Microsoft Teams in Channels, the Shared tab, formerly the Files tab, will have new capabilities. The title is not going to be enough for you to understand what this means. MC 1025217. Let's go through it at a reasonable pace. This could be an episode of its own if we really wanted to. Okay. Put it this way. You will see by the time we get to talking at the end of this message why I think you will need to prepare your people. Coming soon to Microsoft Teams, what do we got currently, Daniel? We've got a Files tab, and that's where we see files. We go inside that, and there is kind of an indication about what is in channel, meaning folders that are related to the channel that we're in, and stuff that's in the document library. Okay, got it. What they'll be introducing is a slight change around that, which in library is going to be anything that is actually in the library. Could be documents, could be other stuff, right? That's fine, but it's whatever we saved into the library. They're introducing a new one called in posts. Oh, and I really haven't kind of emphasized this as well. It's not going to be called Files tab anymore. It's going to be called Shared. Let me say it again. Not Files, Shared. That's the part that's been kind of aligned, I think, with OneDrive. Is that right, Daniel?
Yeah? With our chats. Yeah. Yes. So, when you're having those chats and Teams, it's called Shared now. But you're right. It's that's OneDrive, right? Those files are in OneDrive.
Yeah. All right. So same thing now in channels. Now coming down that level. Okay, we're going to have in library stuff. Got that. In post. Now this will appear to capture, let's say, things that I have uploaded and added to or referred to in a post in the channel. So I think it's going kind of beyond in channel. It's also, it would appear to be, links or brand new documents that I'm uploading as part of the process. Like you go into the attachment button, you go through the upload process. It's going to dump it in wherever it's usually the top level folder for that channel. And so you'll find this in a view called in post. Okay.
Yeah, and
let's fix it in post.
Well, no, but you said that, it's views. And I think that's really going to be the biggest help when we're talking about change management. Yes. When we're talking about change management and helping people understand what's going on here, is that them knowing that those are view buttons, basically, to change the view within the shared tab, which, I don't know, it feels like shared. Well, they're files. So it used to be a files tab, and now that's shared. It's weird. Yeah. But, Daryl, I at the same time don't like this and like it. The biggest thing that I like is seeing that breadcrumbs for the document library, because this is by far the most confusing thing with Teams and end users and files, and SharePoint, right? Is that they go to Teams and they click on Files, which will now be shared, but Files tab, and they see files. But, when they go to SharePoint, that SharePoint site, they don't see those files unless they click on the channel name, and then they see the files, right? And it's very confusing, but this aligns it more with, hey, this is just one area of that document library. So I'm loving that part. The other stuff, it's a little bit more confusing, and I know you're going to talk about this more, about the not just the in library and post, but also the other ones as well. Yeah. But that part I really, really like about this. It's been missing, and we should have had it, I don't know, 2 years ago, the breadcrumb, and be able to see files no matter where they are in the library, in every channel. It's my opinion anyway. But
well, let's talk about those other three that have been introduced, and see this also as kind of a view or a filter function. There will be a recent button clearly. You click that, you're going to see whatever was recently changed or added to conversations or whatever. Actually, if I translate this based on the screenshot, it is in post that's been selected, combined with the recent button to show what has recently been posted that is shared. You have files and you have links. So we'll have this, what a file is, of course, we kind of understand that, but this new concept of links that are shared in posts, which we would just do anyway. They're hyperlinked things that we're just dropping in, but they seem to create the link file in the background like we can in a team. Is that how you translate that, Daniel?
I translate that as I don't know. I feel like, there's one way to translate this as, they're going to start creating link files for us, or maybe they have already and it's just somewhere in the ether. I think that's probably more like it. There are links somewhere in the ether. It's just not showing up in the library. And so now they're just surfacing that because those are links in posts, right? And so they're just showing that.
I don't know. I think they're probably just hyperlinked text, but if they're going to create a file for each of these, wow.
I don't know that it's a file. I think more so it's just, I don't know. I don't know what's happened on the back end. What I do know on the front end here is that this could be confusing because everything else we've been talking about in library and then in post, you click on recent. Well, those files are going to be in the library, right? Because it was in a post. You click on files in post. Well, that's in the library as well, right? Because people upload, when you put it in a post in a channel, it uploads that into the library. Links though are not.
No.
And so, I don't like it when they add features, when anyone adds features, not just Microsoft. They add a feature and it's odd. They put one thing in there and you're like, well, that's what it's, you play the game of one of these is not like the other. And this links, I like it. I like the idea, but I think there could be a potential for people to get confused thinking these things are in the library somewhere.
So you're going to see this in a couple of messages this week. I want to point this out. What you need to do to prepare. The rollout will happen automatically on the date. No action admin required. But they say before the rollout, we will update this post with new documentation. Now, I might try and use my Backstage Pass as an MVP and just try and find some of this out. Of course, I won't share NDA stuff, but I certainly want to prepare people for this change because it's not small.
Yeah, agreed.
And when? Well, targeted release begin rolling out mid-April and complete by late April. General availability worldwide mid-May 2025, expected to be complete mid-June. Wow, we spent some time on that one, but Daniel, if that was kind of like a headline or a key thing, I just wanted to do my part. Tell us about this new thing in SharePoint, which is not a flow.
Was that my hint to make this quick? I don't know. Microsoft SharePoint. Use SharePoint quick steps to automate common tasks and workflows. MC1025215. This is, the way I'm summarizing this in my own head, if you want to journey into, well, I don't know if you do want to journey into my head. It's a dangerous and dark place, but the way I'm really thinking about this is it's something that's in between a SharePoint rule, which, those rules are, if someone uploads a file, then do this, and it's email me, basically. Or if someone deletes a file or a list item, then send me an email. Those kind of simple rules. There's only 4 categories, I think, 4 things. This is in between that and a Power Automate flow. And so we're going to be able to, these steps, automate Common tasks is what Microsoft is calling this. Now, if you go to the help documentation here, those common tasks are draft an email, start a Teams chat, set a value, and I'm assuming that set a value is on the item itself, although we don't have more information about any of these, to be honest. And send an approval request, which we kind of already had that in the automate menu anyway, but it was definitely powered by Power Automate. And then execute a flow, which is a Power Automate flow. So those are the quick steps that we're seeing as an example in the help documentation. We don't have a lot of information about what these are, and we don't see, for instance, set a value. How does that work? Is that, I'm assuming it's just on the item itself, but is it set a value on something else? We also don't see too much about what's happening on the back end. And we have questions about several updates this week on that, of what's actually happening under the covers to make this functionality happen. Is this just a Power Automate flow that's being generated and they're just making it simple through a UI? Maybe. I don't know. It seems kind of like maybe, but I would not be surprised if it's not. I just don't know. I find value in this because there is an opportunity often when I'm talking with customers that are wanting to do a process and make SharePoint part of that. They have files or they have a list item. They want to they do a process and they want to automate it. They want to make it more user friendly, but also, not have people manually doing things. But they also don't necessarily need a workflow. Don't necessarily need a Power Automate flow. For instance, like setting a value. If someone wants to mark something complete, then why can't we just say select the item and start what we're calling a quick step to set that value to be complete, or maybe set it to assign to me, those kind of things. Why do I need a workflow to do all that? Complicating it. So I think there's value in this. I just don't know that we have enough information in this post to really give us an idea of what this is going to do for our users and what needs this is going to fill in our organization. So unfortunately, I think it's going to have to be, we're going to have to wait till it rolls out to targeted release. And this is why you should have a targeted release tenant that you can play around with. So you can see this, because I think you're going to have to wait until that happens to play around with this to see if you want to, start implementing these things. I think most organizations will, but what processes you will replace or put in using this functionality, I don't know yet until until next month when it starts rolling out to targeted release. Speaking of targeted release, they'll be rolling out early April 2025, expected to be completed by late April. And then general availability worldwide, GCC High, will be early May 2025 and completed by late May. And then DoD is getting it mid-May 2025, completed by late June of 2025. So I'm kind of excited about this, but I don't know if I should be because there's not enough information. So we shall see. I'd love to see, how people do this and throw videos and everything up there. And people come back to our video here once it gets rolled out and like, what in the world is this? What did Daniel and Daryl have to say about this? Well, Daryl didn't say anything because I didn't let him. I talked about it all. But what they can do, Daryl, I think once this rolls out and they need to create a presentation showing this functionality to their user base, they'll be able to stay on brand, right? Am I right?
Well, that's important. This is a feature that you will need the Microsoft 365 Copilot license for. I have to say the full thing because there are multiple Copilots. Microsoft PowerPoint, stay on brand when creating presentations with Microsoft 365 Copilot. This is MC1024405. We have seen some advancements around Copilot and PowerPoint. It creates that outline for you now and can create slide decks based on that. It also creates talking points as well, and it grabs images from the stock images library. But this is expanding that capability to draw images from your organizational assets library. So that's one of your choices, but also exciting to see here too, Daniel, is the ability to work with the Templify third-party product and drawing from that library. So if you are an organization that uses Templify, then Copilot can work in nicely with that. There's a few steps to make that possible, to connect the Microsoft Copilot, 365 Copilot, and PowerPoint to either of those image libraries. And when you have, then you can go through that process of prompting and saying, I want to create a presentation, create me the outline, and then it will be able to draw from the appropriate assets. Now, one thing that Daniel and I want to discuss in this is how is that? Because someone's gone to great trouble to put the right metadata and tags and various different alt text descriptions on the stock assets, surely. But have you done that for your own org assets library? Daniel, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody has. Not really. There are definitely organizations that have. Even the documentation for Templify, which, by the way, I'm a bit shocked that they're allowing this, that connection, but they are. Not shocked bad. I'm just like, whoa, wow, that's interesting that they're actually willing to do that. But even those instructions on the Templify page say, show you how to automatically generate alt tags for the image tags, for your stuff. Mm-hmm. So, and we can do that in SharePoint as well. It's just, have you enabled that and allowed that to happen, or have you manually done it? And have you done a good job? Have you reviewed what those alt tags, those image tags are, have said? Those are going to be very important if you're going to use this functionality, like Daryl said, that, what does it say? It says that they're going to, once they, it's going to, find those assets for you. It's like, well, how do you know that it's a chair sitting at a table with a computer, that would fit into, what I'm trying to do here for my PowerPoint? I don't know unless you have tagged the content. So I don't know. It's just like Copilot brought in this idea of, Daryl, I can find all your content and generate new content. Great, but you better be doing permissions and doing governance correctly on your content now. Well, same thing for images. You better be doing those things that make the content inclusive, generating those tags and everything so that the Copilot knows what in the world this is.
Yeah, I think that what we will see in this first release of it is something pretty basic. I know that the creation of PowerPoints using Copilot has come further along than its first release,
thankfully,
but it's still reasonably basic. It still requires quite a simple layouts. It's not going to work with complex layouts and fancy formatting in your slide decks. But it's good to see that the pathway is beginning to be forged to use your own org assets and recognizable people, imagery, logos, colors, etc. So this is going to be available, rolling out late March, general availability worldwide, and expected to be complete by early April. Let's turn our attention to an Exchange message.
Absolutely. Exchange is so important. It is the backbone for so many functionalities in Microsoft 365. New Exchange Online Tenant Outbound Email Limits, MC10232994. This was a conversation piece this past week on the interwebs of what's going on, how is Microsoft, why are they doing this, and how are organizations going to adapt to these changes. And this has something to do with your cousin, Terrell. Daryl? see what I did there? They created a new acronym, New Exchange Online Tenant Outbound Email Limits, and they call that Terrell. I don't know how they... No, it's called Tenant External Recipient Rate Limit. Anyway, so basically, Microsoft is now telling us exactly how many emails we can send out from our tenant. They got a nice little formula here. Basically, it's going to be 500 times the number of email licenses that you have to the power of 0.7. I didn't think that's what it was. I thought it was divided by points or times 0.7, but it looks like the formula is to the power. Anyway, plus 9,500. So basically, the way it works is you get about 10,000 outbound emails. That's the limit for daily. This is not monthly. This is daily for your whole tenant. And then it goes up from there based upon the number of licenses you have. And so it just details in here about, how this quota is happening, and how you can, view a report of what's going on. Cause this is going to be very important, definitely for for organizations that run into this and go, what in the world, where are we sending these emails from? And I think this is another thing I think is very important, because if you think about it, I use my email, we use email through Microsoft 365. Well, those are the same IP addresses of emails being sent out from other organizations as far as the internet's concerned, right? So if we're on the same, data center, those emails are being sent out with the same IP addresses. So if there's a bunch of people spamming like crazy or using it for nefarious reasons, then they're going to start being marked as such, and therefore my emails will be impacted too, right? Because my emails sending out at the same IP address may start getting blocked by certain appliances and network appliances and such. Anyway, so it affects everybody. It also affects, the integrity of email in general when people can sign up for a trial tenant or, one license and then send out millions of emails. So this is really helping all of us. However, organizations need to know, what's going on, especially before this is rolled out. How many emails are we actually sending? Because if we're sending more than we need, more than this limit, then we're going to have to take action. So, I don't know, Daryl, do you know of like any good reason why organizations would be sending out, tens of thousands of emails per day, on a regular basis?
Good reasons, but I think that some organizations that aren't using email campaign platforms and software may be doing it internally, just using good old Exchange Online, and probably hitting the occasional limit if they are going far and wide with their campaigns. And I think this is part of the control mechanism, is to say, well, we've put the brakes on you in the past. Now we're going to do it in a measurable way that you can actually preemptively plan for. Yeah,
I agree. So, I mean, it's things like, okay, so if you have 100 licensed users, then you're going to have over 22,000 emails you can send per day. If you have 1,000, you're going to have almost a little over 72,000 emails you can send per day. So, yes, there's a limit. You really need to investigate why you would be coming to. If I've got 1,000 users and I'm sending over 72,000 emails a day, I probably need to be investigating, like Daryl said, using some other platform to be sending these emails out and understanding why I would be sending these emails out. There's some valid reasons to be sending. I'm not saying there's not. You could think about some organizations are using M365 and they send emails out to customers, and maybe they have thousands and thousands and thousands of customers that are interacting with them on a daily basis. And so they're sending emails out and, anyway, so there's some investigative work. That's why we're covering this. You need to work on figuring out how many emails you actually are sending, whether you're going to hit the rate limit or not. So, they have postponed the rollout a little bit since the initial announcement that they made, but you need to take this month, March, and figure it out. So tenants with less than 25 email licenses, the rollout start will April 3rd, and then it has a rolling schedule through May 1st of when it's going to start rolling out to everyone. So take action now. That's why we're covering this message. This is important. Take action, find out, run these reports on, and it shows how to do that in the message in the email admins, the Exchange Admin Center. Take action now. Figure it out before this hits you. So that's my advice. Daryl, let's end this show talking about one of our favorite tools. I don't know that it's used as much as it needs to be, but Clipchamp. What is Clipchamp getting that's going to help me do my job? Maybe.
Clipchamp introduces AI-powered video creation with Clipchamp Copilot for Work. This is, scroll up a bit, MC1024396. If this message sounds familiar,
it does.
It's because we did cover something very similar on our 365th episode. As Daniel would say, I have to put that in there because I love how you get musical sometimes, Daniel. It's AI-powered Copilot putting a video together for you using a prompt. What does it do? It uses your words. It creates a video using stock footage, so not from scratch, not AI generated from scratch like Sora, for example. It will piece together videos based on what you have discussed. And because it's drawing from stock footage, a bit like our message earlier, it's looking at metadata and matching and trying to find the right thing to help tell your story. It also puts in the script that it comes up with. It can generate the voice for it too, so that you're not doing the voiceover. Now, the difference between this and the message we covered a few weeks back is that you're doing it now from within Clipchamp. You can use the project at the end of it too, where here's the video that it came up with. It's over to you if you want to make any changes, change the text, stylize things, bits and pieces, maybe even change the script that it says, because one of the features of Clipchamp is the AI-powered voice. But yeah, that's really, I think it's just really the change in entry point. What we do see in here, though, is something that's a little bit ambiguous, that it talks about how it does it with stock footage, and then further down the message it talks about using images from your organizational assets library.
So it different from what the entry point before, which was the Copilot Visual Creator was using Clipchamp, but it was using stock footage. This one is being specific and saying it is, it says stock footage, but then when, like you just said, it says we use content in existing M365 asset libraries to bring your video to life. Mm-hmm. So is it using stock footage, or is it using just our footage? And it's not really creating new video clips, really. It's using our images and such that we have to create a video and put it together. But I have some questions. I don't know if we have answers to that.
No, I think there's a little overlap here where if your images are well cataloged and they do have metadata and alt text and stuff to give Clipchamp its clues as to what to put in there, then the safe approach that it's taken it. It's going to do it with images and maybe have like a 4-second length of that video or picture as it appears there, and voice is set over it. If it was video in your assets library, that would be even trickier because you don't know about the length. But anyway, I won't get into that. We've given you a very long episode already, so I'll finish off there. It's quite similar. Targeted release begins rolling out mid-April and complete by late April. In general availability, you'll be able to do this from Clipchamp beginning late April and expected to be complete by mid-March. There you go.
Indeed. Well, while it is a little bit longer than we normally like to do, hopefully we brought some value with some of our conversation, but maybe we didn't say the things you were thinking. Throw it down into the comments in the YouTube video, or, if you're listening, we'd love to hear from you. Hit us up on all the socials that matter, M365MCS, sorry. And let us know what your thoughts are. What should we have said? Or, hey, maybe we said what you're thinking. Tell us that too. We'd love to hear that, so that maybe others can learn not everything is, black and white, as we've talked a lot about here today on these messages. Some of this, you may take it and say, yes, I'm going to use it this way exactly in my organization. And then other people may look at that and go, I have no earthly idea what we're going to do. So we can all learn from each other. So please, jump in and help each other out.
All right. Looking forward to learning from your comments in the comments below. Mm-hmm. And we'll see you again next week. Bye for now.
Bye.